Budget hearing Thursday, September 5th, 2024. I'd like to stand for pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First, I'd like to apologize. We're about 4 or 5 minutes late. Tried to start on time, so we had a couple things going on later, so I apologize for that. Madam Clerk, you take roll, please.
Mayor John Aaron Coover,
Here.
Vice Mayor Linda Rodriguez,
Here.
Councilman David Mueller,
Here.
Councilman Robert Hubbard,
Here.
Councilwoman Lisa Burke, City Attorney Nancy Meyer,
Here.
City Manager Matthew Koppler.
Here. Thank you. First up, I have comments from the general public. I do have one signed up. Danny Timmer, welcome. When you come to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Okay.
And you have 3 minutes.
My name is Danny K. Timmer, and I'm here about my property tax increase for my building in Port Richey. Okay. They went up last year and nothing got done. Okay, now they're proposed to go up this year and nothing's got done. I've owned it for 16 and a half years. I pay a sewer bill and I've got a septic tank. I'm not even hooked up to the $50 or $60 a month for 16 years. So I'm just here to vent and figure out what the hell's going on. The last time I was here, everybody went to prison. The ones that didn't go to prison got in office and then they shot somebody. And then they fired the city manager. Then they hired somebody else. Then I had to renew my permit because I was putting an addition on. Then I couldn't get a CEO because they had to finally get one to come out of Citrus County to come down here and inspect my building to give me a certification for occupation. I mean, this place has been screwed up for a long time, and I'm not telling you, I moved here yesterday. I'm born and raised in Clearwater, in Dunedin area. My folks moved here in 1968, okay, and I've been a resident of Pasco County for probably about 60 years. I'm 78 years old, and everything's just like it's at a standstill, like all other politicians. It's just bull, and everybody does nothing, and people get raises. I want to know, they're closing our street now, over on Rees Street. Nobody notified that they're going to dig the street up or anything. Okay, I got classic cars and motorhomes stored in my building. I use it for nothing but personal use. I rent to nobody. Okay, and they're just raising my taxes. They reassessed my building from $350,000 to $850,000 in 1 year. And the only property that is sold in this whole damn area are some storage units, and the only reason they're sold because the guy died. Charlie Grant's dead, and he owned all of them, so they sold them out of his estate. So they have no comparisons to go to or figure. I don't know how they come up with that kind of rates. So I went to the county and first before I came here, but you guys have got proposed rates to raise my taxes. And I guess I'd like some help on, one, getting hooked up to sewer if they're going to tear the damn street up. All right, I paid for it for 16 and a half years, never used it. I use the minimum water bill. They charge me $43, $45 for that every month. Like I said, it's just storage for my own personal toys. So if anybody can help me, I'd appreciate some cards, numbers, and really get some help this time before everybody goes to prison. You know, and I'm not making this up. You guys know it too. All right. And so all the blur just keeps right on going and the buck keeps getting passed. I want something done this time. Thank you for listening to
Absolutely.
me. I vented. I'm sorry if I offended anybody.
No? Appreciate it. So just so the public knows, obviously, spoke before the meeting or whatever, we're going to get you the help you're looking for to kind of straighten. We're going to be committed to getting the help that you need over there. To you talk to Daryl, you got his information about the sewer. Obviously, we're going to talk about taxes tonight. What I wanted for the public to understand is the trim notices that went out. It's common practice for the city. We're allowed to go 1 mil on top of what we already charge per year, up to a maximum of 10 mils. That's by statute. it's commonplace to go ahead when we approve that for the trim notice to go out, that we go ahead and put that max on there so that the public knows, hey, this is the max my taxes will possibly be. Okay, what we're going to talk about tonight is what the actual rate will be. And we've balanced the budget at this point at 637, which is the rollback, which would equal the same taxes you paid this year going forward. So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. That's what the current budget is balanced at. And you'll see on the next reading of the resolution is that millage rate. We'll vote on that, and then we'll move to another meeting. We'll also go to the budget workshop after all this, and that's where we're actually going to talk about, does it stay there? Does it go a little lower? Does it go a little higher? And we'll flush it out. So the second reading will actually have the actual tax rate. But just want the public to know, the trim statement you get in the mail, that is not the tax rate. It could potentially be the tax rate. That's the max tax rate. But I know it scares a lot of people, especially as things get higher and higher. But we're talking about the actual tax rate tonight. So I appreciate you coming out. And, stay tuned. We'll talk about some of these things. But I hope you get to the help you need.
Okay.
Thanks. Anybody else? I don't have any more signed up. Welcome. And state your name and address for the record.
My name is Harold Clayton, 8534 Reese. I'm next door to Dan Timber. And my property value went way up too. I have a storage building there with same thing, classic cars, and I have a motorhome in there. But nothing else has changed. I didn't add on, didn't take anything off. But I don't know why my taxes went up as high as they did. Between the city and the county, they have me at $11,220. Last year was $8,062. Hell of a difference.
Yep. Again, that's the max you would see.
Yeah, but the county got me down to $995.
Yeah.
10 grand.
Yeah. And so, and also just one thing I didn't clarify, valuation of the property, that's not done within the city, that's a county function. So
No, that's Port Ritchie.
well, we know we set a millage rate.
Yeah,
We tax a valuation. Valuation is set by the county. We don't set the valuation.
right.
So that's why you have to go to county to have those adjusted. But obviously, so there's two parts to it: the value of your property and the millage rate for each of the individual taxing authorities. So the only thing that Port Ritchie controls is the City of Port Ritchie Taxing Authority, which is currently 6.53 mils, proposed at 753, which is the max. That's what we're going to talk about tonight. The valuation is controlled by the county. So anything with a valuation, that's not something.
When will we find out what you going to raise it to?
Well, second budget hearing is
19th.
19th.
5:30.
19th at 5:30. That's when it actually gets set. First reading is tonight, so that's potentially what it'll be. But as we go through the budget workshop, if you attend that, at the end of that workshop, we would probably have that number worked out, and then it'll be a second reading, and it'll be adopted at that 19th meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I have one, can I ask one question?
Sure. Did you finish with your comments?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah. Go. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Joanne Timmer. I'm a husband to Danny Timmer, who owns 8524 Reed Street. Harold and I and Dan went to the county when we got these enormous tax bills. And when we got, my property just value was $364,000 last year. It went to $810 when I got the new tax bill a couple of days ago. And my question is, Harold and I went to the county, they brought it down to, my just value is now $593,000. So do you guys, my question is, do you guys get that new just value from the county when we get our new tax bill, the actual tax bill?
Yeah, so we use the valuation that the county does. The only input that the city does into those valuations is if, let's say, you come and have a building permit and you put a new fence up or you
Right.
put a building, through that building permit process, that gets submitted to the county and they take that into consideration when they look at your valuation. So outside of that being done, there's controls in place that they can only go so high. That sounds like an extreme jump.
Well, the two pieces of property were weren't the right comparables that they used. And they realized that, I guess, at the county, so they helped us out a little bit. But, so when you guys do when the county does the final billing, everybody's the just value that we have in place with the new value will now be the value that they'll base our taxes on
That's correct.
for the county and the city?
You have all taxing authorities, yeah.
Okay,
So yeah, the valuation on there is probably the valuation. That's not a projection. That's the valuation that they.
right, but it dropped from 810 to 593 on my property. I want to get taxed, if I'm going to get taxed, I want to get taxed on 593.
Sure. If that's what you worked out with the county, that'd adjust. Yes.
And then you guys will
Our
adjust
rate would be based on that.
that.
That's correct.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
I think that covers everybody. Bring it back to the council. Next up is comments from the city manager. I'll pass it to Mr. Copper for his comments.
No comments tonight.
All right, moving on to the comments from mayor and city council. I'll start to my left this time with Councilwoman Burke.
No comments.
Vice Mayor Rodriguez.
I'm good, thank you.
Councilman Hubbard.
I relinquish all my time to Super Dave.
Councilman Mueller. I'm good. All right, thank you. And I have no comments as well. Moving on to council business. First reading of resolution number 24-27, City of Port Richey 24-25 millage rate. I will pass that to Ms. Meyer for the reading.
Thank you. Resolution number 2427, a resolution of the City of Port Richey, Florida, adopting the final levy of ad valorem taxes for the City of Port Richey for fiscal year 2024-2025, providing for notification of requisite government authorities and providing for an effective date. Section 1 of this resolution indicates that fiscal year 2024-2025 operating millage rate for citywide expenses is 6.3782 mils, which is the same as the rollback rate of 6.3782, resulting in 0% increase over the rollback rate of 6.3782 mils.
Thank you. I'll also pass it to Mr. Copper for introduction.
I think that introduces itself.
Yeah, I'll elaborate just a little bit and I'll open up for motion or discussion. So obviously, like I stated, this past year's taxes are 653. The rollback rate, what that is what the city needs to have for their millage rate to bring in the exact same revenue that we had the year prior. And so based on valuation changes and whatnot, that rollback rate is 6.3782. That is the millage rate we're on this resolution here to adopt. First reading, and then as we go forward in the workshop, also we'll tweak that. So for the sake of time and to spend as much time in the budget workshop to see where we want to go, lower, higher, or that exact rate, I would just look for a motion to approve, and then second we'll move forward.
Got a question. Are we putting the cart before the horse?
I asked the same question.
I didn't hear it.
Well, so it seems a little backwards to go ahead and accept this, but in reality, the second reading is when it's actually adopted.
Okay.
So we can have conversations here, but until we get to the detail and all that, where we can strike.
Because
and add.
ultimately,
Exactly. So I think this is kind of a
make a
formality.
motion to accept this resolution 24-27 on the millage rate for fiscal year 24-25 of 6.3782.
A motion. And a second. Any further discussion? Any comments from the public? As I bring it back, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2, first reading of resolution number 24-28, City of Port Richey budget, fiscal year 24-25. I'll pass it to Ms. Meyer for reading.
I think a resolution has the improper title. It's the same title as the last one, isn't it?
Last was 24-27, this is
No, I know
24-28.
the actual
Part
title.
of the packet.
Right.
Yeah, it's in the agenda.
Go ahead and discuss.
Yeah, I'll
read it.
pass it to Ms. Combs for his introduction.
Well, if it's okay, I've prepared a quick overview of the proposed budget. So I think you know a lot of this already, but for the public to hear what's in the budget, and this is something we'll put up on the website as well, so people can see it and get prepared for the second budget hearing, which will be September 19th at 5:30. And could you grab the one light so we can, guests in the audience can see the presentation over there? Thank you. So Fiscal year 2024-25 proposed budget. I wanted to start off with things that I think are important for people to know before we get into it. First off, the mill rate for the general fund is set at the rollback number of 6.3782, which we just talked about. 1.178 $1,178,109 is budgeted in the Penny for Pasco Fund, including funding for road resurfacing, replacement of vehicles, purchases of important equipment for police and fire, plus a number of other things. But again, I'm just trying to be brief with what's going on there. Another important feature of fiscal year 25 is there's $4,250,000 budgeted for a study and design of a new water treatment plant. The good news on this is that it's being funded 100% by the state through the state revolving loan emerging contaminants fund. So we won't have to put any money out to start this, and this hopefully will again put us in line to receive significant funding from the state for the actual construction of a new water treatment facility. And then the last takeaway is within the utilities funds, there's also $979,200 budgeted for water system and sewer system improvements. It's something that we haven't done in previous years, or at least for a long time. And this budget starts moving us towards that, that discipline, as I always say, within the organization to start reinvesting within our system. A little bit of a background on the budget process. The budget actually starts really early in the year, January through June. The departments and myself go through their budgets, and the department managers propose to me what they believe they're going to need for the upcoming year. We meet, we discuss. There's probably a lot of conversations throughout those months to finally be able to put together what a proposed budget would look like that ultimately gets to council for your consideration. In July, the property appraiser certifies taxable values, and that's kind of the conversation you were having. We get a tentative number in June, but then we get a final number, which really isn't a final number because there's other processes that happen, as you heard earlier. But this really starts the process, right? Because it locks us in on what numbers we're going to be able to use to generate what the tax rate is going to be and what the revenue numbers are going to look like. It also kicks off a process, which is the TRIM process, the truth in millage process that resulted in, if you remember, I believe early in August we had a council approved the TRIM notice that sent out a budget or a mill rate increase up to 7.53, which everybody gets and unfortunately thinks that that's what the number is going to be. But as we go through this, and we've already talked about, that number is far higher than what we're proposing. July through August, we have budget workshops with council and the departments to discuss what is in the budget, what are the proposals, what does it mean. And then today, September 5th, the first public hearing on the budget. Following this, council will be having a workshop to start talking about things that they may want to add or may want to subtract from the budget. So when we get to September 19th, we know at the second public hearing, we know what the budget is going to be. And hopefully council will adopt it shortly thereafter. And October 1st is when the budget year begins. So within the fiscal year 2025 budget, there are a number of funds. There's the general fund, special revenue fund, capital improvement funds, and enterprise funds. I should have put up there the grant fund as well, because you'll see a little bit later, there's a lot of activity in our grant funds this year that we're planning on getting funding for. But again, these funds are where all the expenditures and the revenues come into that allow us, for instance, the general fund to fund our police department or fire department, the general administration of the government, the building department, code enforcement, and then each of the different other funds that also, such as the enterprise funds for the water, sewer, utility, and the storm sewers. So in total, we are proposing a general revenue funding source of $8,049,875. It's about a $205,000 and some change increase over the previous years. You can see that the biggest single revenue source comes from taxes, and there's a whole line. If you look in the budget book, there's a whole section of different types of taxes that we are collecting, but the important one, which is the ad valorem, which is the taxes we charge on the properties within the city, is set at approximately 2.6 million and change, which is similar in the mill rate to the current fiscal year. And then within the general fund, the different expenditures, you can see that our largest expenditure within the general fund is the police and dispatching, which is about 33%. And then we get into the general government and fire after that, and some of the smaller ones. I want to call out, you'll see there the CRA share. In the next budget hearing, we'll be talking about the Port Richey Community Redevelopment Agency, and it actually gets funding from two different main sources. One of them is from taxes we collect here in the city and then send out to the CRA, and that makes up about 9% of this year's budget, or about $700,000. So wanted to make sure you saw that. Significant changes within the general fund this year, in the upcoming year at some point. We'll be contracting with Pasco County for dispatch, which in a year's time will be about $91,800. We were able to see a decrease in the property liability, workers' compensation insurance, which if you look from fiscal year 24 to 25, it doesn't look like a large amount, but we were anticipating up to a 20% increase. And so the decrease, which is a small amount, plus 20% on top of that, actually is a very large amount, which was one of the factors that allowed us to get back to the rollback rate. We were also able to see only a slight increase in the employee health care insurance. Again, as we went into the budget season, we were anticipating probably a 15 to 20% increase in that. In the end, I think it was about a 3% increase overall, which if we had stayed with PRM, who was our provider for employee health care insurance, we would have seen a 10.9% increase. So a 3% is a welcome relief to do that. And we're starting a 3 to 4 year process where we hope, as we start changing how we view healthcare insurance, how our employees view healthcare insurance, that one will get a better framework for cost savings and increases going on, and also at the same time be able to provide a higher level of benefits, not only to our employees, but also to their spouses and children. As you know, right now, we only provide health insurance for our employees. If they want to bring on their spouses or children, the employee has to pay for it. And those costs are quite significant, that run into the thousands of dollars that are coming out of the employees' pockets to do that. And I think as we go forward and we start looking at how do we retain our employees, how do we recruit employees, getting this straightened out to where we can have better benefits and more coverage will help maybe offset some of the increases that I foresee that will be necessary in wages. So it's really kind of this two-pronged attack. So when we get there, we'll be able to recruit and retain, all the valued employees that we have. There's a slight increase in the medical supplies for fire department. I bring this up because I think this is such an important thing that financially you look at and say, well, it's a small increase in the general fund for fire department. It's a huge step forward for the provision of medical services within the city. in a number of communities you might know. And one of the things that I've always taken pride in is our first responders as it relates to the medical services. And because it was something that was always beaten to my head, that you want to get your first responders to have the highest level of service provision as quickly as you can to the scene. As it relates to especially medical side, we have a nurse on there, she'll probably hopefully agree with me on this, is that if you're having a heart attack in the city, if the response time is 2 minutes to get an advanced life care person there, the outcome is significantly different than if that took 10 minutes. And that's something that right now, if we didn't have that first responder, that advanced life support, getting there within 2 to 4 minutes, whatever that time frame is within the city, we are going to see better outcomes of those events than if we didn't do that. And I think it's something that the fire department started, two years ago, if I'm not mistaken. It's, again, a small thing, maybe cost-wise right now, but it's probably one of the biggest increases in potential service that the city does for its residents. And again, I've been in those communities where, advanced life care is 8 to 10 minutes away. And you just see, based upon what the outcomes of those traumatic events are, the difference. And so it's an incredible and important thing that we're doing. And this budget moves us forward a little bit more. I mean, we're not going to be there, this year total, but we're going to be there, and it's going to be very important for the city. And then the last significant change is we have increased in city events to the city events line item to accommodate the centennial celebration, which if you had an opportunity to watch or attend one of the meetings, they have a lot planned. We may have to increase that budget. So looking forward to that. The next fund I want to talk about is our Penny for Pasco fund. And this is the revenue from this, or for this, comes from the 1 cent sales tax that the county charges, and we get a very small fraction of that. This year, I believe the revenue figure is about $705,000 that we'll be receiving from Pasco, which is, again, a fraction of what we're looking to spend, which is approximately $1,178,109. And within that fund, we've proposed the purchase of new police cruisers, continuing with the replacement schedule that we have in place. We have a limited amount of road resurfacing, the purchase of police equipment, fire equipment, vehicles for public works, fire station, building assessment. We have money set aside to fund a Nix Park boat ramp improvement. This would be our share of the grant that we have applied for through the state of Florida, and then some miscellaneous improvements to City Hall. And I'll just say, I couldn't really get the total list up there because it would be really tiny, and I didn't want it to be tiny. But if you go to the website and go to the budget, in the budget information section, you will see the whole listing of all the projects and what the costs are. Plus, you'll see the next 5 years as well, what those look like. The next fund is the Water Sewer Utility Fund. In this, the changes for fiscal year 25, we're continuing what the rate study that the city had undertaken a couple of years ago recommended. So you have a water rate increase of 6% and a sewer rate increase of 13.6%. As I said earlier, we're going to be reinvesting in our water and sewer system to the tune of a little over $797,000. We're going to be doing well rehabs, improvements to the remote well filled, line improvements for both water and wastewater, and sanitary sewer lift station improvements as well. And the last thing I wanted to put in there is that we also have funding set aside for studies of the water distribution and sewer collection systems. And that's really important for as we go forward and look at the capital reinvestments that we need to make in the coming years, to have an understanding of what those improvements really need to be and where we need to start focusing. And you know, we're going to be doing a lot of studies next year, as you'll see in this budget. And it's important because when you start putting together that capital plan, you know, you do have to have a pattern to what you're going to be doing. And understanding when we're going to be resurfacing roads is one piece. You know, understanding when we need to replace lines or do work on lines is another piece, because what we don't want is mix those up and, you know, repair a road and then next year put in a new water line or do something to the sanitary sewer system that tears up that road. And so understanding, you know, what the system's needs are, understanding where to start spending the money so you don't have that conflict, saves us a lot of money going down the road. And so having those studies completed are key to what we're going to be doing over the next 5 to 10 years. The next fund is the Stormwater Utility Fund. Some of the significant changes there. Council in the first, the first study session approved the concept of increasing our rates, which currently are $9.05 per ESU, now up to $12.20 per ESU. It's approximately a 34.8% increase, but it really is a necessary thing to do. We unfortunately have not invested within our storm system. As we've seen today, we had some issues over on Bay Boulevard with stormwater backing up. So it's something that we need to do so we can start working towards the repair of the system and the improvements of the system. Again, we have money in there to do a study for the stormwater system so we can understand what the improvements that need to be made are. We have a start of those improvements of about $100,000 that is most likely going to be spent on the south side of the city, if I'm not mistaken. That will allow us to, again, start the process of fixing a system that is probably not designed for the current configuration of the city and the development that's occurred over the last 20, 30 years. And the last significant thing within the Stormwater Utility Fund is we see the addition of a full-time employee in this fund. And again, we have a number of things that need to be done in terms of the maintenance and the ongoing upkeep of the storm systems that we have. And adding this individual will give us more capacity to hopefully be more proactive and take a proactive approach to the maintenance of the system, which is something that we just unfortunately have been lacking for many years. There are a number of impact fee funds, and these come from monies that are collected as part of new developments or new construction within the city. I'm not really going to spend a lot of time talking about these tonight. Generally, the budget amount kind of corresponds to what is within the fund right now that needs to be, that is available for spending. It doesn't reflect potential future development that could come in over the course of the year. It's something that the city really has not tapped into and used up until now. So we are going to start working to look and see where we can start spending this money on the upgrades to the systems that we have that you know are because of the development that has occurred and will be occurring in the future in the city. Then we have a few different small police funds, the confiscation fund, police training, and the police $5 fund. Again, most of this is small type of expenditures that we with council really haven't discussed very much with. But that's something you want to talk about later on. I'd be more than happy to discuss that with you. And then the last big fund is the grants fund, and in it you see the big one really is the water treatment plan study and design. That's a $4.25 million project that will begin begin the process to get a brand new water treatment facility for the city, which will definitely improve the quality of water for all residents and businesses in the city. Also, we have a couple grants for roofs and generators for lift stations that we should be getting from FEMA. And also, as I mentioned, the state grant for Nick's Park boat ramp is contained within that. I believe, I'm not sure, I left it in there because I'm just not sure what this one is with the fire grant from the federal. Is it, do you know what it is off the top of your hand? Department of Health one? Yeah, I think that's the one. And I forgot to call him to find out for sure what it was. 85. I think it's 85 is what was budgeted. So.
Our plan here, that already reflects.
Yeah, that
The balance sheet, we just need to reimburse.
Yeah.
ourselves.
that I'll leave. I would point over to the finance director so he can explain how we're doing that, because I'm not. We do it differently than how other places I've been. Not necessarily how.
We don't need to get into.
Yeah,
the
it's
weeds.
it's a little bit of a weed there. And so that in a nutshell is the budget in probably 10 minutes. Reminder that the second public hearing will be September 19th, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. here in the council chambers.
Sorry about that. So
Pass it to you for-
the resolution is Resolution 2428, a resolution of the City of Port Richey, Florida, adopting a budget for fiscal year 2024, 2025, and providing for an effective date. That's not in your packet. We do have a copy of it. Anyone who wants to see it, and it will be in the 19th. They'll have the correct resolution.
Okay, that'll up for motion and discussion again on the same thing on this. We're going to dig it in nuts and bolts in the workshop. So it's kind of just go ahead and get this taken care of, and then it'll be solidified in the second reading. So look for a motion for approval.
Motion to approve resolution number 24-28. What she said.
A second. Second. Have motion second. Further discussion. Anyone public like to speak? See no hands, I'll bring it back for a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That's all for the council business. If there's anything else, we can look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thought we were going to do a workshop.
That's every meeting. So I got motion adjourned.
Second.
I have motion second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Meeting adjourned.